You see, there's a rather fascinating notion built into the way our culture operates. The idea that to help others is always the highest good. From our earliest days, we're told that being good, being virtuous, being spiritual, is a matter of always saying yes. We must give, and we must constantly be available, open, obliging. And the very moment you hesitate, the instant you pause, the second you dare construct a boundary, suddenly there's this accusation. Something's wrong with you. Perhaps you're selfish, perhaps you're unkind, but consider for just a moment the possibility that this entire approach is upside down, that the urge to compulsively help, fix, and rescue isn't love whatsoever, but a subtle form of interference, a disruption of those indispensable lessons life lays before us. Contemplate this. Whenever you persistently shield someone from their own consequences, where does it lead? Far from helping, you foster their imprisonment. You spare them the teachings only experience imparts. In doing so, you stand squarely between them and the growth that hardship brings. It's not to suggest, of course, that we grow callous or indifferent. No, that's merely the other end of the pendulum swing, isn't it? The real question is never simply, should I care? The real question is in the nature of that caring, in the direction of its flow, in the choice of where and with whom our energy is spent. Because you see, there exist, ever so naturally, people who will drain all your reserves. For them, receiving is infinite, the giving ceaseless, and your contribution never ever satisfies the void. And what's tragic isn't their taking, but that your intervention stifles their development. Permit me to invite you into an observation, a guide to recognizing 7 types of people, not for judgment nor for condemnation, but for protecting your spirit and allowing them to confront the transformative experiences that might truly awaken them. First, the perpetually idle. There is, you'll notice, a fundamental distinction between those truly struggling and those who have simply resigned. The struggler, if aided, turns assistance into momentum. The perpetually idle, though, views your efforts as a cradle, a soft nest woven by your own hands. They, by some measure, wittingly or no, decide that existence is burdensome, so another must support their being. You, when aiding them, fuse into the pillar they lean upon, not for lack of capacity, but by discovering that another inevitably intervenes. Consider nature. A songbird doesn't deliver sustenance to a fledgling refusing to open its beak. A tree withholds nourishment from a branch that bears no fruit. There's nothing cruel, simply wisdom. The non-productive must be cut adrift for the forest's health. Those forever idle always compose a narrative, tales of misfortune, hardship, injustice. Some, perhaps most, carry grains of truth. Yet you must inquire, what are they doing, right at this moment, to alter their lot? Is there genuine movement, no matter how minor? Or is there merely waiting for some ever-solicitous hand to solve the riddle? By helping the unwilling, you deprive them of life's rarest gifts, the sweetness of self-earned triumph, the fortitude distilled only from overcoming, the fundamental realization of their own agency. There are those among us who have borne others for years, paid debts, tidied chaos, solved dilemmas, always under the banner of kindness. But ponder, might your well-intentioned kindness be a cement that fixes their weakness in place? Is it possible that your aid is the one blockade barring their steps toward independence? The idle soul, in truth, must taste hunger, discomfort, consequence. Only then, when the pain of inertia surpasses the pain of change, does movement arise. Second, the perennially ungrateful. Ever noticed how some hearts can accept unimaginable gifts with staggering indifference? You bestow time, resources, affection, your very essence, and what greets your offering? No thanks, no acknowledgement, nothing. Such barrenness stems not from accident, but character. True gratitude isn't just mannerly, it's the recognition of a bond greater than oneself. The grateful person understands that every fortune comes as grace, not entitlement, so they treat each gift with deep reverence. The thankless, however, believe the world and you are in their debt. The more you offer, the more entitled they become. It's curious, the more you pour, the less substantive their gratitude. A story comes to mind. A man supports his friend's rent for 6 months, denying his own comforts to preserve the others. How was it repaid? With complaints. The space was insufficient, the neighborhood undignified, the arrangement unfair compared to those with more. At no point came a thank you, no recognition was given. When the support ended, resentment emerged, as though denied a perpetual right, not deprived of a free favor. Such is the nature of ingratitude, generosity mistaken for weakness, kindness for opportunity, and they will drain you to the last ounce. Aid extended to the ungrateful doesn't plant seeds. It tumbles endlessly into a void that cannot be filled. Third, the arrogant and the self-assured. Certain individuals don't seek your help. They crave your concurrence. They don't value your wisdom. They simply want you to validate their own convictions. Offer a challenge, and you're dismissed. Such pride isn't ignorance but excess, an unyielding confidence in the infallibility of one's own view, and a dismissal of all contrary voices. Yet pride is peculiar. It appears as confidence, but rests on a foundation of fear of being shown fallible. Their identity is invested entirely in being right. Admission of error shakes the whole edifice. Thus, they entrench, argue, resist, dismiss. Assistance for the arrogant is futile, not for want of help, but for lack of humble receptivity. Until they alone realize their need, your guidance is squandered. Even Christ, in wisdom, walked away from those unwilling to listen, refusing to pursue or plead, offering his message, then moving on. Wisdom can't be foisted upon those dedicated to folly. The arrogant must fall, learn humility through encounter with real consequence. Broken and stunned, only then does openness arise. Fourth, the habitually malevolent. Now great care is needed here, for today's sensibilities seek gentler terms, troubled, misunderstood, not wicked. But there are souls who aren't confused. They see clearly the harm they do, and persist regardless. A mistake is human. Consistent malice is quite another. The habitually wicked lie, deceive, injure, and when confronted they don't repent. They justify. Extend them protection, and you become complicit. You provide means for continuation. What you give is not employed for reformation, but to deepen the very vice you pity. Wisdom traditions everywhere warn against supporting those intent on evil, not from callousness, but recognition of paths that spiral into ruin. Attempt to rescue them and you risk being ensnared in their vortex. The wicked don't crave redemption, they crave empowerment, a facilitator for schemes, a shield for deception. Help here doesn't rescue, it entangles you in shadow. Fifth, the resolutely foolish. A fool lacks not intelligence, but the will to learn. Errors repeat, advice is spurned, and pain is never a teacher, only a recurring wound. The wise appreciate that each hardship, each encounter, is a lesson. The fool, however, learns nothing from repetition. And what's painful is how the fool often arrives engulfed in crisis, desperate and bleeding, inviting your rescue. But history, if examined, would show this is neither the first nor the second such crisis. Each time, rescue is followed by a return to folly. The fool is akin to a drowning man refusing your lifeline, splashing furiously instead. And if you leap in, he'll pull you under as well. Save them you cannot. Only consequence can. To shield the fool is to block the only lessons life can give. Sixth, the consummate manipulator. Perhaps the subtlest opponent, hardest of all to identify. They ask not with hands outstretched, but with stories expertly told. No demands, just the gentle invitation that moves you to give. They're acutely aware. Good people ache to help. Kind people feel guilt at denying. This knowledge they wield as a sword. They'll say precisely what you long to hear, weaving stories, sculpting sympathy, so much so that you find yourself doing things for them you wouldn't for anyone else. The manipulator is an actor without compare. Victim to one, hero to another, the character they play morphs with every audience. Compare notes and the illusion unravels. Support manipulates. You don't nurture a soul but fuel a perpetual play. The day you see through it, the day you decline, suddenly you're cast as the villain. Their performance continues with a new benefactor. Seventh, the remorseless rebel. Lastly, there lives the one who knows the path but refuses to walk it. They're not ignorant. They've been informed, warned, corrected, but remain unmoved. Their rebellion is willful, a choice to embrace destruction no matter what advice is uttered. And should you intervene, they'll nod, smile, agree, but quickly revert once your gaze softens. This is perhaps most difficult to relinquish, because their potential is obvious. You see not just what they are, but what they might become. So you hope and you pray and you believe this time will be different. But it never is. Change cannot be forced from outside. It must spring from a will within. No matter how desperately you wish for their freedom, if their desire does not ignite, your wrestling is in vain. You tire, they stagnate. So, what do we make of all this? Do we become granite, immune, untouched? Do we withhold help altogether? Certainly not. We learn discernment, the essential ability to distinguish between struggle and stagnation, between a soul needing a hand and one demanding a free ride. We aim for clarity, not judgment, but vision unclouded by wishful thinking. True compassion refuses to simply enable. Sometimes compassion looks like disengaging, allowing consequences their proper place in life's education. Because, as ever, it is through darkness, challenge, and contrast that awakening truly dawns. When you invest in those ready to blossom, you witness fruitfulness, lavish your care upon fertile ground, and there is growth, reward. But pour into barren sands, and all is absorbed without return. Your vitality is a finite resource. Your days, your gifts, are not inexhaustible. They are meant for wise stewardship, not indiscriminate dispersal. Not all are ready for your assistance. Discernment is not cruelty, it is wisdom. So meditate on this. Whom am I sustaining that ought to stand alone? Whom am I rescuing that must taste their own consequence? Whom do I empower to remain unchanged? In truth, the most loving act can be to step back, gently, without resentment, to allow at last the world itself to teach the lessons we cannot. You cannot save another. You can only illuminate the path. Whether one chooses to walk upon it, that is theirs, and theirs alone.